The greatest gift that you've ever been given is the gift of your imagination. Your imagination is yours to be able to do anything you want with. You can place any thought in there with the awareness of I am. There's a very famous poem about that moment of Moses speaking to God. It says, earth's crammed with heaven, and every burning bush afire with God. And those who truly know take off their sandals, while the rest sit round it and pick blackberries. It's your call. It's your call. So your imagination is the greatest gift that you've been given. And you can put anything in there. No one can tell you what can be there or what can't be there. Einstein said imagination is greater than knowledge. And he said if you want your children to have a great imagination, read them fairy tales. If you want them to be even smarter, read them more fairy tales. That's why I've written 5 children's books with that very idea in mind. The second thing is that you have to learn to live from the end. Whatever you have placed into your imagination, you have to act as if it already were your reality, independent of what anything or anyone else says. When I was told that I had this diagnosis of leukemia, I can't tell you how many people sent me condolence letters and sent me information about this disease and how it was incurable, and unfortunately this. And fortunately, I was given by my children a wonderful gift. It's called an iPad. And it's got this wonderful feature in it. It's called Delete. And then there's another feature of it. It's called Trash, which is really great. I'd like to have a button like that on me at any time, so that anytime anybody brings any information to you, you just push the trash button. The third of these principles is the principle of, I call it, assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You must be able to feel it, because every time that you feel something within your body, you give a instruction to your subconscious mind. And your subconscious mind is the part of you where you do all of your living. You want to redo your subconscious mind. Now, tonight, I'm going to give you guys such a gift. Tonight, and every night for the rest of your life, I want you to take the last 5 minutes before you go off to sleep and realize that you are about to program your subconscious mind. And then when you awaken, you will rejoin the universal subconscious mind, the mind of God, from which we all originate. We're all just individualized personal expressions of that one thing that we call the Tao, or God, or divine mind, or soul, or spirit. But the Tao that can be named is not the Tao. So you want to be real careful about how you program your subconscious mind. This is from the book of Job. In a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falls upon men, while slumbering on their beds, then he opens the ears of men and seals their instruction. Job 33, 15 and 16. When you are slumbering on your bed, he opens your ears and seals your instruction. What you place into your subconscious mind as you are about to go into this deep slumber is all dependent upon what you do the last 3 or 4 or 5 minutes before you go off to sleep. You want to place into your imagination whatever you have placed into the I am that I spoke about earlier. I am well. I am content. I am peaceful. I am happy. I am prosperous. I am abundant. I am health. I am perfect health. I am healing. I am content. I am wealthy. I am positive. I am love. I am God. Even if you don't believe it, over and over again, use these words, I am. The words that God spoke to Moses. My name is I am, and that shall be my name for all future generations. And as you marinate in that, when you awaken, you will begin to attract more of what you have placed into your subconscious mind. That's why Serena said in here, the word blame is just not a word that we use. We are responsible for what we attract into our lives. And through our thoughts and our desires, we can create them. Begin to practice. I am living as if what you would like to attract is already an accomplished fact. There's also something inside of you that is not finite. Body is finite. All your possessions are finite. Everything up here on this stage is finite. That means it had a beginning. It means it ends someplace. But inside of us, there's something that is the opposite of finite, which is infinite or infinite. And it has no beginning. And because it has no beginning, it has no end. Emily Dickinson, the great poet, said that this quiet dust was gentlemen and ladies and lads and girls, was laughter and ability and sighing and frocks and curls. This passive place, a summer's nimble mansion where bloom and bees fulfilled their oriental circuit, then ceased like these. When my mom passed away, they gave us an urn, as she was cremated, and they gave us an urn of her ashes. It was dust. And I looked at my two brothers and I said, surely this isn't Mother. This isn't the woman who had to struggle the way she struggled and deal with the things that she had to deal with in her life, this beautiful soul. You know, Longfellow said that life is real, life is earnest, and the grave is not its goal. Dust thou art, to dust returneth, was not written of the soul. The soul is beyond all of that, because it has no beginning and it has no end. And something that has no end means it has to keep what? It has to keep growing. It has to be. It just continues to grow. I wrote these words out about the soul. The ideal of the soul, the thing it asks for, is neither knowledge or light or happiness. The ideal of the soul is space, immensity. The one thing it needs is to be free to expand and to reach out to embrace the infinite. Yeah, the ideal of the soul is infinity. It's miserable when it's circumscribed and restricted in any way. You know, before I had any children, I had 8 theories about how to raise children. I even wrote about them. All right? Then I had 8 children, and now I have no theories about how to raise children. But one of the things I know for sure about raising 8 children is that nobody likes being told what to do. That little voice that you've all heard that says, "You're not the boss of me. You can't tell me what to do. I'm my own boss. I can think for myself." That's not the bratty outbursts of a spoiled child. That's someone who's saying, I have a soul. I don't want to be fenced in. Don't put me in a box. Don't make my life what yours wasn't. Don't tell me what I should be or can't be. It's the infinite within each and every one of us. That's the soul. And every single one of us has it, and none of us wants to be put into a box. And all we want to do is continue to grow. And one of the things I can tell you at this age of 74 is that it's just operating in me as full-time as it possibly could be. I am in a constant state of growing now, and almost an elevated state of growing, just really moving, and things are coming to me so rapidly. Like this book, The Impersonal Life, and another book. You know, Maya Angelou passed away this past week or so. And I put on my Facebook page my experience with Maya Angelou back in
Back in the 1970s, we were on a radio show, the Owen Spann Show, on KGO in San Francisco. And a caller called in and said something that she was all upset because she wasn't getting the attention that she wanted. And she said, I never forgot it, because she said, the bird doesn't sing because it has an answer. It sings because it has a song, And I encourage everybody to honor Maya Angelou by singing your song, and while you're singing, make it a love song, because that's what she was about. Her biography, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, because it has a song, not because it's demanding an answer. There are no answers, but we all have songs that we have to sing, and we don't want to, as Serena said, die with our music still inside of us.
Essentially, energy field theory says that there is an invisible vibratory field of energy surrounding all living objects, including human beings. This field is created by how we think and process our experiences wherever we are in the world. At certain levels of consciousness, the energy field vibrates fast. At other levels of consciousness, the energy vibrates slowly. Essentially, there is a continuum along which varying levels of consciousness are responsible for creating the field of energy. We encounter different energy fields when we are within each other's physical proximity. Where there is strong, continuous energy for extended periods of time, even when people are gone, the field of energy can remain intense. For instance, we often feel sad or happy without realizing that we have entered a field of energy that is invisibly present. While touring the home of Anne Frank in Amsterdam, I almost had to force myself to breathe. The air seemed so heavy throughout this house, which was now a museum where millions of people have come to share the story of Anne Frank. The joyous energy field also remains in places where it predominates. In the presence of highly advanced spiritual people, one can feel love and be transformed in consciousness just by being in their field of energy. Ella Wheeler Wilcox unknowingly captured the essence of field energy theory with these two famous lines: "Laugh and the world laughs with you. Weep and you weep alone." Many years ago, I had an experience while walking on the beach which illustrates the message in this popular poem. A woman approached me who was moving to Florida from Chicago. She recognized me from a television appearance the night before. She said, "Do you live here in South Florida?" And I responded that I did and was taking a beach walk after returning from an all-night flight. Then she asked me a commonly heard question: "What are the people like here?" I responded with a question of my own: "What are the people like in Chicago?" She smiled broadly and told me how warm and friendly people were in the Midwest, and I told her immediately, "That's pretty much what you're going to find here." On my return walk along the same beach, a woman whose husband was being transferred to Miami from New York stopped me to say that she had seen me on television the night before and how much she enjoyed the show. We struck up a conversation, and then she asked me the same question I had heard only an hour before on the very same beach. Naturally, I asked her the same question in return: "What are the people like in New York?" She launched into a tirade on how insensitive, cliquey, and unfriendly it was in the big city, and I responded, "That's pretty much what you're going to find here." We attract into our lives pretty much what we ourselves project with our own attitude. In general, those who feel that the world is a cesspool notice the vermin, while those who believe in the goodness of humanity see others of like mind. Many people lament the poor quality of service in contemporary America. "You just can't get good service" is a gripe you hear daily. In fact, Time magazine did a cover story on the decline of service in every field, from retail stores and restaurants to getting your watch repaired. Recently, on a television show where everyone on the panel unanimously agreed on the poor quality of service, I disagreed. I explained that I felt expectation attracted what it expected. When I enter any retail store or restaurant, I expect to be treated cheerfully and politely, and that's pretty much what I get. If I can't find a salesperson to wait on me, I refuse to contaminate my energy field with thoughts of displeasure and disgust. Instead, I begin sending out the energy that I want to find. If I encounter a surly waiter, I immediately bring him into my field of energy with, "Looks like it's been a tough day. I understand. And you've just been rewarded with a customer who appreciates you and how tough your job is. Take your time." Lo and behold, the poet is right. Be glad and your friends are many. Be sad and you'll lose them all. Your field of energy radiates at whatever vibratory frequency you generate. You are impacting and being impacted by the energy fields of many people each and every day. Refuse to give energy to things you don't want or don't believe in is a very powerful piece of advice. Anytime you opt for weeping rather than laughing, sighing rather than singing, grieving instead of rejoicing, sadness over gladness, fasting in favor of feasting, or pain in favor of pleasure, you are making a choice to slow down your vibrations and to pollute your immediate mental energy field. Every morning as you take in your first view of day, you have the choice to say, "Good morning, God," or "Good God, morning." Whichever you choose is precisely the energy that you will invite into your life. Indeed, there is room in the halls of pleasure for a long and lordly train. Remember Ella Wheeler Wilcox's poem while you increase the vibration of your energy field with these adjustments to your attitude.
I think the first thing that you'll see a dramatic change in is the amount of time that you have left over when you give up all of the negative kind of emotions. How much more fulfilling and gratifying your life becomes. We'll start with your own physical health. 10 years ago, I weighed 30 pounds more than I do now. I wasn't exercising. I was not watching my nutrition. I was a candidate for a heart attack. I was not practicing good physical health principles. Now, I never really made a conscious decision to say, all right, I'm going on a diet. All right, I'm going to start exercising. I'm going to watch the sugar, and I'm going to get the salt out of my diet. And I'm not going to have caffeine in my diet, and I'm not going to have poisons in my system. I never did that. Those become natural outgrowths of self-love, the non-self-serving kind of self-love, the kind of self-love that is like having a quiet love affair with yourself, where you don't have to tell anybody. It's not necessary. It's just a given. It just is. You begin to see dramatic changes. I started running 10 years ago, and once I got myself into shape, I ran a minimum of 8 miles every day. And I got into a streak, and it's almost 9 years now, of continuous, every day, never missing a day of running. And at this point, exercising and being trim is just what I am. I am trimness. I'm not trying to get there. What I'm really saying is that that is not me anymore, and you don't have to go through any pain and suffering in order to get there. It automatically becomes a response. That your body, when you start conditioning it, when you put lots of water in your body and flush it out and keep it clean, that comes from a premise of self-love and some of these principles that I talked about earlier. All right? So when you ask about the benefits in the physiological area are astounding, and they just seem to get a hold of you, and you begin to make intelligent choices or healthy choices that are good for the organism. They come about naturally when you start operating your life on this inner kind of glow that I'm talking about, this serenity. You see, I think that there's more to the universe than what the pragmatists would have us believe. I am open to everything being possible and operate from the premise that nobody knows enough to be a pessimist. Right? None of us know enough. We know so little about the universe. I mean, I laugh in the newspapers. Just last week I saw a story about the quasars. You know, these stars that are out at the edge of the universe. And I said, what is this edge of the universe? I mean, what's there at this edge? Is there a wall there? Or is there a cliff? I mean, what is it? And how did it get there? And what's on the other side? We can't comprehend within ourselves something that has no beginning and no end, because all the things that we are limited to in this space that we occupy now start with beginnings and ends. Everything has a cause and an effect. Try to contemplate for a moment a world which has no cause and effect, in which everything just is, just the way it is. And one thing doesn't cause the other. It is, and it always has been. Try to think of eternity, when we talk about an eternity, as something that we can't comprehend because we're confined in the body that we occupy to only think in terms of when we began and when we end. Look at your body right now, and look at your fingers, and look at your arms and all that, and remind yourself that who you are is not those things. That those fingers were very different when you were a month old. You still were. You still existed. You are not your fingers, or your bones, or your nose, or your ears, or your hair, or any of those things. Those things have all undergone dramatic shifts in your lifetime, however old you are, and yet your essence, whoever you are, continues. It goes on, and it continues to occupy many, many different bodies. This is not a case for reincarnation. It's not a case for anything. It is looking at the world from a perspective of awe and magnificence and openness to everything being possible. And that whatever it is that you call mysticism or metaphysics or whatever is nothing more than just the things that we have been limited to because we only understand what we're confined to. We can have anything for ourselves when we're open to that. As you look through all of the great teachings there have ever been, that one principle of self-acceptance, self-love, taking good care of yourself, all seems to permeate all of the teachings. They just seem to go back. That can't be an accident. There's got to be some truth to that. If you can accept that you are something other than just what your body is, even though it defines rationality and it defines scientific verification and all of that, you can accept that because we know that that's true. Bucky Fuller told us that 99% of what we are is untouchable, unsmellable, invisible. 99% of our essence. We can't get a hold of it, we can't smell it, we can't touch it, and we can't see it. It's whatever that conscious awareness is that we experience for whoever we are. And that conscious awareness that we carry around with us can bring about magnificent changes in our lives. The physiological changes I've alluded to, without trying to change anything dramatically in us, when we become more and more enlightened, if you will, and that's a wonderful thing to know.
And somehow I know that the part of the journey towards enlightenment, it's really about, honestly, it's about letting go. It's about doing less and accomplishing more. It's about not struggling. It's about, in the Tao, Lao Tzu speaks about water all the time. Live like water. It's the softest substance in the world, and yet it's the strongest. It stays low. Practice radical humility. It goes from the high places all the way down to the low. Why is the ocean the strongest force on the universe? On our planet, rather, because it stays low. It lets the streams and rivers fight and work, but they all end up down here. Stay that way. Find God in nature. All of these kinds of things I learned and practiced. But the ego teaches us that who we are is not this divine being, that if we let it go and just guided but stepped aside and allowed. And when Sky was singing those songs and said, thank you when it came my time to go. Thank you for the freedom when it came my time to go. Who am I to tell my own children that they should do what I want them to do when I never did any of that my entire life? And when she wanted to drop out of school and out of college at the University of Miami and pursue singing and go out, she said, Dad, I just can't listen to one more lecture on music theater. I want to sing. I want to write my own music. But she thought she was disappointing me. If you knew how much the tuition was there, you could know there was no being upset about that at all. No, I'm kidding. The idea that I should be imposing or telling her what to do. When Serena went and applied for law school and got in within a month or so, took the LSAT, got a high score, went over, got herself accepted to law school. And she was there for about 3 weeks. And she said, this is just something that I do not want to be doing. And she had a knowing, because I always knew that you not only have to experience what you don't want, you have to experience what you do want and what you don't want. You have to experience those things. I spent 4 years in the military knowing that this is not what I wanted to be, someone who took orders and dressed just like everybody else. There are other people who do these things, but not for me. And I understood that with her, and she sent me a text message, and I let it sit there for about 6 or 7 hours, and she was so worried that I was going to be disappointed, because I remember helping her write her her essay to get in. I said, you're not going to write the kind of essay that everybody else writes they want to get into law school. We're going to write an essay that's going to knock their socks off, And she got accepted. And she left, and I said, you leave with my blessing. You do what you know that you have to do. And the same with Tracy when she decided to leave, and so on. It's like practicing a kind of respect for a person's higher self, that this little being, Khalil Gibran put it this way, he said, your children are not your children. They are the products of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not for you. They come through you. None of my children ever saw me ask them for the report cards their whole life. It just wasn't a big deal to me. You're going to school. These are your grades. This is your life. I'm here to support you, guide you. But you don't have to get good grades because of me. My daughter Summers called me the other day. She said, I'm going to make you so proud next May because I'm going to graduate from college, and you never thought I would. I said, honey, that won't make me proud at all. I'm not interested in that whatsoever. If you want to graduate from college, it's your choice. I'll be there, and I love you. But things that make me proud are who you are, the being that you are. You don't have to satisfy me or fulfill me in any way. It's a hard lesson, but it's also one of, I have 8 children and I'm close to every one of them. Love every one of them and they love me. I feel it and know it in my bones every day. And it's because one of the reasons is that I do not live and fulfill my destiny and my dharma through them any more than I expect them to do it through me. I just don't go that way. The Tao says, do nothing and get everything done. Let go. Allow. The ego says, I have to do more. And there's a real irony in this. It's very hard to explain this to people, but you can get more done by doing less. That's one of the verses in the Tao that I worked on, and I swim every day in the ocean. Every day. Usually an hour a day, freestyle, in the open ocean. Or I do it at the pool, if I'm on the road. And I decided to see if I could swim by doing nothing. Just propel myself through the water, but take the effort out. Just let myself go through the water and just allow my body to move through the water the way it knows how to do. And I stopped working at it and stopped trying. I swam better, faster, less stress. It's one of those amazing things. I mean, I watch the really great athletes. I watch Michael Jordan. And I don't think he's out there doing what he does because he's trying so hard. It's like, and people will say to me, well, when you write or when you speak, you make it look so easy. It's because I repeat, before I get introduced for a talk like this, I repeat a line from A Course in Miracles. And this line says that if you knew who walked beside you at all times on this path that you have chosen, you could never experience fear or doubt again. And I don't deliver the talks. God gives all the talks, builds all the bridges, writes all the books, and I just allow it to flow through me.
I am not a body with a soul. I'm a soul with a body. All right? And when you understand that, you're aging, you're getting older, is not the condition of your body, because you're not your body. Thought is everything. An attitude is everything. So that getting older, having your form get older is just one thing, but if you're transformed, if you've gone beyond your form, then you don't have to get older. It's just a way of looking at your life. And yes, your body will slow down, and yes, it won't be able to do the things that it could do at one time. But most of that is controlled by our thinking, by our attitude. And I have a child inside of me, and I choose to think of myself, regardless of what anybody else thinks. Even if a stewardess thinks that little baby carriage could be for a granddaughter, if that's what she thinks, that's just what she thinks. But if I don't think that way, and I don't think of myself as old or as getting worse or anything like that, if I see myself as the way that I think, the irony of all of this is that your body will respond in ways that are very helpful and even youthful. But if you focus just on your body, then you will notice everything about it that is changing and assess it in a way that says, I am deteriorating. But if what I am is not my body, but my thoughts, then it can never deteriorate. And you can't kill thoughts. You can't kill feelings. You can only kill form. But if you are not that form, then you know that your conscious awareness can never die. You can't change that. It just changes from one form to another form to another form. And that's the way I tend to look at it. And so I don't see any effects of my form getting older. I see every once in a while a new little wrinkle. I'll see changes that have taken place in my body. And I see a phenomenal miracle in this whole business called life. And that doesn't have to change just because your form is growing older. It just doesn't have to. I don't, anyway, assess my value and worth as a human being based on my form, on my body. And then my body is able to stay in phenomenal shape because of the way that I think. I eat a third of what I used to eat, all right, and in total bulk in a given day. I sleep probably a third less than I used to sleep. I don't put sugar into my body except just natural from fruits and things. I don't use salt on my foods at all. These are all things that I did regularly in my life. I exercise and walk almost everywhere that I go. I run 8, 10, 12 miles every single day. None of these things were ever deliberate choices that I decided I better make because my body's getting older and I have to take better care of it. They came about, they followed me as a result of being in a higher state of pure thought, a higher state of self-acceptance, of seeing myself as an important, significant human being, and living that way, and seeing other people that way, and seeing the world that way, in this more purified kind of way, more loving kind of way. All the other stuff has followed after me. It's alarming that when you unclog yourself, that your body goes right with it. And your body doesn't have to wear out nearly at the level that I once thought it had to. And I think if you keep a real strong grip on the way that you think and process your world, you will see your body getting healthier, more capable than you ever thought it would be. Even the total wearing out of your body, I think, is an attitude. I really do. Almost always people have prepared themselves for death from the time that they know that there's such a thing. We're the only animal on our planet that does that. I mean, dogs don't go out there and prepare to die. And horses and mosquitoes and all that, they're just out there being, all right? And I've often said that we're not human doings, all right? We're human beings. If we were just what we did, then somehow the term human doing would have evolved. But no, we're not. We're beings. We're being. That means to be, all right? Not to judge, not to evaluate. And that if you don't prepare yourself for death and wearing out and getting sick and thinking that you're going to slow down, if you don't think in those kinds of ways, then I guess your body doesn't have to wear out. I mean, it sounds like a real radical kind of notion, but the cells don't wear out. There's something in the aging process that has to do with the thoughts that we are. And once we have learned how to transcend the kinds of thoughts that prepare us for getting older and more feeble, then I believe we will have conquered the aging process.
I want to share with you this one exercise that I learned, that I have been practicing, and that is very profound. If you want the qualities of your higher self, remember, I'm speaking here now about God, the God within you, the almighty, omniscient person that you are, the energy that is your birthright, but you have lost sight of because of your coming to believe things to be true, which only take you to places called ordinary. If you want the qualities of your higher self to flow down into your lower self, you're going to have to bring your imagination into play. Now, I'll be speaking in the last part of tonight's talk about the power of the imagination. It's the greatest gift you've ever been given. And everything that exists in the physical world once started in someone's imagination, including you. If you want the qualities of your higher self to flow down into this lower self, where you can become this almighty, omniscient, omnipotent being, you're going to have to bring your imagination into play. You are down here on earth. Using your imagination, you focus on your higher self in the world above and picture him looking down at you. In other words, from that higher level, you look down and see yourself and the imperfect conditions in which you live. Keeping this thought before you, you set in motion a current, an invisible current that flows between the self that is above and the self that is below. In this way, you are restoring the vital link between you. For from down here, you are thinking that you are up there, and up there, you are conscious that you are down here, thinking of yourself up above. It's very difficult to explain this clearly, as you can see. At the same time, you divide yourself, you also unify yourself. You divide yourself into two, one above and one below. The one above, your true self, watches the one below as he meditates on that self above. And in this way, an extraordinary current is established between the two, making it possible for your superconscious to develop. You stay with your eyes closed, conscious at the same time that you are there in your room, a living, thinking being, while your all-powerful, omniscient higher self above sees his reflection and recognizes himself in you. Seeing himself, he smiles at you, perhaps even laughs a little. And you watch from below and begin to get to know him while he watches you from above. In this way, the gulf between the higher and the lower poles of your being begin to narrow until one day it disappears and they are fused into one. When this happens, your lower self no longer exists. That lower self, the ego, which is not a true reality, disappears, and all that is left is your real higher self. No more weakness, no more discouragement, no more darkness. You become omniscient, immortal, and eternal. Now, it sounds like, well, I'll just go ahead and do that, and it's all going to just work out for me. But what I'm really saying here is that it's an exercise that if you begin to practice it for about 30 minutes a day in your meditation and begin to picture this higher part of you, your origination place, the spark of God that is you, where you came from. Not just because I'm speaking from a spiritual perspective, but whoever the quantum physicists are that are watching and listening tonight, whoever they are as well, they all know that it is an invisible field of energy from which all things originate, to which all things return. That is your essence. It is your true self. And if you can just get that higher self to become 1 or 2 or 3% of who you are, you can begin to access through your intuition the kinds of things that your false self doesn't allow. Muktananda called the ego the false self, because in those first 9 months of your existence, from that spark of God that you were, when everything that you needed for this physical journey was handled in there in this miraculous way that is just too profound and too mysterious for us even to begin to fathom, isn't it? It's the great mystery, isn't it? That's what the Tao teaches us. Live the mystery. Don't be afraid to wander into the unknown. Don't be afraid to know that this music that you came here to play is calling you. It's begging you. You can't fulfill somebody else's dharma. You can't do it the way your family wants you to do it. You can't do it the way they did it before. You have to go within and know that this is my calling. Abraham Maslow taught me when I was a young doctoral student, you must learn to be independent of the good opinion of other people. You must learn to detach yourself from outcome. That's what self-actualizing people do. Those are the 2 most important qualities. Detachment from outcome. You don't do what you do because of what you're going to make or what kind of rewards you're going to get or how people are going to like you. You do what you do because it's your passion, because you won't allow anything else to be but what you feel inside. It's what I used to call being a scurvy elephant.
Confucius was a Chinese teacher and philosopher whose philosophy strongly influenced Chinese life and culture for over 2,000 years. He had this to say about patience. Do not be desirous of having things done quickly. Do not look at small advantages. Desire to have things done quickly prevents their being done thoroughly. Looking at small advantages prevents great affairs from being accomplished. I have this quote of the ancient Chinese teacher and philosopher Confucius pasted above my typewriter as a gentle daily reminder to not do anything that will prevent great affairs from being accomplished. It seems to me that we have a great deal to learn from our nature about how we hinder our greatness. Yet it is our nature that we often ignore in favor of what our mind tells us is the way things ought to be. Patience is a key ingredient in the process of the natural world and in our personal world. For instance, if I scrape my arm or break a bone, the healing process proceeds precisely at its own pace, independent of any opinion I might have about it. That is the natural world at work. My desire to have it fixed quickly is of absolutely no consequence. If I imply that impatience of my personal world, I will prevent it from healing thoroughly, as Confucius advised over 25 centuries ago. Shakespeare's observation matches the wisdom of this ancient Chinese predecessor when Shakespeare wrote, "How poor are they that have not patience? What wound did ever heal but by degree?" When I was a child, I remember planting some radish seeds at springtime. When early summer arrived, I noticed green leafy shoots protruding above the ground, and I watched them grow a bit taller each day, and finally I couldn't stand it any longer, and I began to tug at those radish shoots, trying to get them to grow faster. I had not yet learned that nature reveals her secrets on her own time schedule. As I pulled at the tiny little leaves, they emerged from the ground sans radishes, and my childish impatience to have this thing done quickly prevented it from happening at all. Now, when I am asked if I am disappointed because one of my books did not appear on a bestseller list as my earlier books did, I think of this observation of the wise Chinese sage: great things have no fear of time. What a compliment it is to the genius of Confucius that his words are still being quoted and his knowledge still applied 2,500 years after his departure. I too write for those souls who have yet to materialize, and if that means sacrificing the small advantage of a position of prestige on a list somewhere today, my impatient ego may be puzzled, but I am content. Impatience breeds fear and stress and discouragement. Patience manifests in confidence, decisiveness, and a feeling of peaceful satisfaction. As you look at your own life, examine how frequently you demand an immediate indicator of success for yourself and others, and attempt instead to see the larger picture. When you are on purpose and see the larger picture, you are able to let go of an inclination to seek validation in the form of merit badges and immediate applause. Italian painter, sculptor, architect, and poet, this Renaissance artist, Michelangelo Buonarroti, is an outstanding figure in the history of the visual arts. Listen to these words he wrote in the 16th century. The greater danger for most of us is not that our aim is too high and we miss it, but that it is too low and we reach it. One of the more frequent criticisms I have received is that I offer far too much hope for people in dire circumstances and that this could be a dangerous thing. Despite this kind of fault-finding, I am still at a loss as to how having too much hope could be a dangerous thing. When people tell me of a medical diagnosis which implies no cure being possible, I encourage them to shift their aim to a completely opposite outcome. I talk frequently about the law which has allowed any miracle that has ever occurred since the inception of time to take place. I explain that this law has never been repealed and is still on the books. I cite cases of people who were told to go home and wait to die, who were given 6 months to live, and who freed themselves of their illnesses and their diagnoses. I receive mail every day from people who refuse to listen to the low aims and the low hopes that others have had for them, describing how grateful they were for a message of hope in difficult times. I believe that Michelangelo, who lived a few days shy of 89 years, still sculpting, painting, writing, and designing, in an age when 90 was about 60 years beyond normal life expectancy, was speaking to this idea of having very high hopes and aims in this famous quotation of his. The danger is not in false hope, rather it is in no hope or low hope, and consequently our objectives and aims are diminished by our belief before they can even be worked on and materialized. This not only concerns the overcoming of physical maladies, it includes virtually everything in our lives. The world is full of people who have aimed low and thought small, who want to impose this diminutive thinking on any who will listen to them. The real danger is the act of giving up or setting standards of smallness for ourselves with low expectations. Listen carefully to Michelangelo, the man who is considered by many to be the greatest artist of all time. I recall personally standing in front of the statue of David in Florence and being transfixed. The size, the majesty, the spirit that seemed to jump right out of the marble was Michelangelo saying to all of us, aim high. When he was asked how he could create such a masterpiece, he responded that David was already in the marble. He simply had to chip away the excess to allow him to escape. High aim indeed. And speaking of high, take a look sometime at the Sistine Chapel, where Michelangelo painted the ceiling by lying on his back and working every day for 4 years between 1508 and 1512, a project that lesser artists would have considered to be impossible. Yet Michelangelo took it on, and many more, in a lifetime crammed full of high energy, high talent, and yes, high aim.